Smart shades are one of my favorite smart home categories because they combine lighting, climate control, privacy, and home design into one upgrade. But they might also be one of the most stressful smart home purchases that you can make. And that sounds a little ridiculous, right? It's just a window covering. But unlike a smart bulb or a smart plug, this isn't something that you buy, try for a week, and return if you don't like it. Smart shades are custom made for your windows. They become a permanent part of your home. You're choosing measurements, you're choosing fabrics, you're choosing colors. You're potentially drilling into your walls. And depending on the size of your home, this can turn into a purchase that costs thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. So the pressure to get it right is real. Window treatments in general are expensive. In fact, it might be one of the more shocking things that you discover as a homeowner. Smart shades don't create an expensive category. They build on top of one that's already expensive. So while there are definitely budget-friendly options, this isn't a category I'd ever describe as cheap. That's why choosing the right solution the first time is so important. The problem is there are more options than ever. Roller shades, Roman shades, cellular shades, smart curtains, curtain tracks, retrofit options, premium custom systems, budget options, all with their different trade-offs. So today, I'm gonna break down the major categories of smart window coverings, from custom luxury installations to simple retrofit options, and compare them using the things that actually matter: cost, installation, power, lighting, smart home compatibility, noise, and most importantly, who each of these options is actually best for. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Robert, and Oconee Smart Homes exists to make real homes more convenient, accessible, and safe with smart home technology. We serve real customers right here in Oconee County, Georgia, but this channel is for anyone who wants to make a simpler, smarter home. Over the last couple of years, I've installed and tested several different types of smart window coverings in my own home, along with helping other homeowners choose for theirs. And one thing I've learned is that there isn't a perfect smart shade. The best choice depends on your room, your budget, your goals, and how much customization you need. A bedroom has different requirements than a living room. A rental has different requirements than a custom-built home. So before we talk about specific products, let's talk about the 4 categories I think homeowners should understand. There's custom shading systems, direct-to-consumer smart shades, smart curtains, and retrofit solutions. And throughout the video, I'll use the same scorecard to compare each one. Category 1, custom smart shades, the premium option. Let's start at the top of the market. Custom shading systems. This is the category where you typically work with a window treatment company, a designer, and a smart home installer. The big difference here is you're not just buying a motorized shade, you're buying a complete window treatment package. That means hundreds of custom fabric choices, custom sizing, professional measurements, professional installations, and the ability to match the shade perfectly to the design of your home. You'll often find dealers working with premium shade platforms and motors from companies like Lutron, Somfy, or Eve motion blinds, depending on the type of shade and the ecosystem that you're building around. This is where companies like Lutron really shine. Lutron has several shading product lines, which can get confusing. Serena is their more homeowner-focused option, while Savoya is aimed at custom installation. The Triathlon Select shades that I'm using sit in the professional space and are designed to integrate into the larger Lutron systems like Caseta, Radio Raw, and Homeworks. The common thread is the Lutron experience. The motors are incredibly quiet, the battery life is excellent, and the integration with the Lutron lighting system is hard to beat. That premium experience comes with a premium price. Let's score our first category: custom shading systems. Cost. This is definitely the premium end of the market. You're paying not just for the motor, but for professional installation, design, custom fabrication, measurement, and so on. Installation. This is a professional install. Let's call it 5 hands. Could you DIY parts of it? Maybe, but if you're investing this much, I'd want the measurements and installation done right the first time. Power and charging. This is one of the biggest advantages of a custom system. Depending on the product, you can choose rechargeable batteries, long life replaceable batteries, or hardwired power if you're building or remodeling. Lighting control. This category gives you the most flexibility. Roller shades, blackout fabrics, light filtering fabrics, solar shades. You're really designing how natural light behaves in your home. Smart home compatibility. Systems like Lutron and others integrate beautifully into larger smart homes, and because they're designed as part of an ecosystem, the experience feels very polished. But these tend to be built for proprietary luxury home systems, so check to be sure compatibility exists with the ecosystem system that you're using. Noise. This is about as good as it gets. These added 1 to 2 decibels of noise over the ambient sound of the room. Quiet enough that I'd happily use these in a bedroom. Best form. If you're building a custom home, doing a major home renovation, or want the absolute best fit and finish, this is where I'd start looking. Before we move on, I do want to mention blinds. Motorized blinds are also a great option, especially if you like the ability to tilt the slats for more privacy and lighting control. Lutron offers some really solid options in this space. I'm not going to cover them in detail today, but it's definitely a topic that I have planned for a dedicated video in the future. Category 2, direct-to-consumer smart shades. For many homeowners, this is probably where the most interesting options are today. Direct-to-consumer smart shades have improved dramatically. Products like SmartWave or SmartWings bring a lot of the features that people want. Custom sizing, multiple fabric options, smart home integrations with Matter, and a much lower price point than traditional custom installations. I've used SmartWings roller shades and Roman shades, and I think they represent a really compelling value. Roller shades are probably the most popular style because they have a clean, modern look. They disappear when they're open, they provide excellent light control, and they work well in almost any room. Roman shades are a different story. They bring more warmth and texture. Instead of a clean roll, the fabric folds into a decorative pattern. They work especially well in rooms where design matters as much as automation. The trade-off is you're usually spending more than a basic roller shade, and some of the ultra custom options available through the traditional window treatment companies won't be available here. One thing I would recommend with any custom sized shade, regardless of brand, is don't rush the measurements. A shade that doesn't fit your window correctly is not easy to return, so you may still want professional assistance with measurement and installation. But for many homeowners, this category is probably the sweet spot. Cost. I'd call this the sweet spot. You're getting custom-sized shades without paying custom installation prices. Installation. Most homeowners can install these themselves with a little patience. The biggest challenge isn't hanging the shade, it's making sure you measured correctly before you order. Power and charging. Most of these use rechargeable battery motors, which I think is a great compromise for existing homes. No new wiring, and charging is only occasional. You can also add in solar, and some do support wired and PoE options. For lighting control, this category offers plenty of flexibility. Roller shades, Roman shades, blackout, light filtering, different openness factors. You can usually find something that fits both the room and your style. Smart home compatibility. This is one of the biggest strengths of this category. Matter support has made products like SmartWings easy to integrate with Apple Home, Home Assistant, Google Home, Alexa, and more. Noise, excellent. They're quiet enough that I'd be comfortable using them anywhere in the house. Bedroom approved, adding just 5 to 10 decibels over this room's noise levels. For most homeowners, this is where I'd start. It's a really nice balance between price, features, and customization. There's one piece of advice I'd give regardless of which company you buy from. Order fabric samples. Seriously, natural light changes everything. The same fabric can look completely different in a north-facing bedroom than it does in a sunny living room. Most companies offer inexpensive or even free sample swatches, and I think it's one of the best investments that you can make before ordering custom shades. Hold them up in the actual window. Look at them during the day, at sunset, and with your lights on at night. Since these are custom-made products, spending a few extra days choosing the right fabric is much easier than wishing you'd picked a different one after they're already installed. Now, before we move on, there is another category worth mentioning here because you're going to see a lot of these when you start shopping for smart shades, and that's the budget smart shade category. Brands like SwitchBot, ZemiSmart, and others offer more affordable motorized shade options that can bring smart control to your windows without the cost of a premium shade system. These products are interesting because they sit somewhere between a retrofit solution and a full direct-to-consumer smart shade. You may get a custom-sized shade with standard fabric options. You may get smart control, but with more compromises around the integration, noise, battery life, or overall fit and finish. I want to be upfront that I don't have a lot of long-term experience with these options, so I'm not recommending a specific product, but it's still worth knowing about if your budget is a big factor. Just remember, with window coverings, the cheapest option isn't always the best value. You're going to look at these every day, and they're a long-term part of your home. This next category is something that a lot of people overlook: smart curtains. And I think that that's a mistake, especially if you have large windows or sliding glass doors. There's something about curtains opening automatically in the morning that just feels like a luxury home. I use the SmartWings motorized drapes in our bedroom, and this category creates a completely different look than shades. Curtains soften a room, they add texture, they make large openings feel more intentional. But there is a trade-off. If you don't already have curtains you like, this can become a bigger project. You're not just adding a motor, you're choosing the fabrics, the track, the rod, the finishes, the entire look, and they're not cheap. That's where curtain tracks become more interesting. This video is actually sponsored by ReMac, who provided the curtain track featured here. One thing I like about this category is that it solves a very specific problem. What if you already have curtains that you love or need to automate your drapes on a budget? Instead of replacing everything, the M1 motorized curtain track lets you automate the curtains you already own. This can be a great option for homeowners who want smart automations without a complete redesign of their window treatments. These support Matter over Wi-Fi, so they'll work across your favorite ecosystems without an extra hub. This system uses an adjustable, no-cut telescoping track, so you're not dealing with custom measurements, which is what helps make these more affordable. Mounting on the ceiling gives you the cleanest finish, though you can mount these on the wall. There are some limitations though. This system is designed for centered over the mounting requirements, especially in homes with kids or heavier curtains. The track is rated for up to 60 pounds, but I think this is based on mounting with anchors in the ceiling. If you have kids that might pull on the curtains, I recommend locating a stud or a joist to mount these in if possible. But it's a nice middle ground between a full custom installation and a simple retrofit solution. Pay attention to this brand and this space, as you're likely to see more affordable and adjustable shade styles from ReMac and ResiFlow and other brands now that Matter is becoming more pervasive. Overall, I'd put this somewhere in the middle of the pack because a system like the SmartWings in our bedroom, which is a pretty large opening, is probably close to $2,000. While the M1 track is only a few hundred. Installation is going to be more involved than a roller shade because you're installing a curtain rod or a track, and getting everything level is important, especially across a wide opening like this. Power and charging. This depends on the system, but most plug into power. If you have an outlet nearby, a plug-in is nice because that's less batteries to think about charging. Lighting. Curtains aren't usually about precise light control, they're about making a statement. They're fantastic for privacy, room darkening, and covering large openings, but you don't have as much fine control as you do with a roller shade. But because these do tend to be oversized coverings for the windows, you will have better blackout control. Smart home compatibility. This is improving quickly. Matter support is becoming much more common, making it easier to integrate curtains into the same automations as the rest of your smart home. The M1 is a great example. It's relatively inexpensive and can go in just about any home, and because it supports Matter, it's going to work in all of your favorite ecosystems. Noise. Most curtain systems are pleasantly quiet. You'll hear them move a little bit more than the shades, raising the room's ambient noise by over 15 decibels. These are best for large windows, sliding glass doors, and anyone who wants their window treatments to be part of the room's overall design. The final category is retrofit, and this might be the most practical option for a lot of people. Instead of replacing your curtains or shades, you automate what you have. The Aqara curtain driver is a great example. It attaches to your existing curtain setup and adds automation without a full replacement. The biggest advantage is accessibility. It's renter-friendly, it's easy to remove, and it's much less expensive than replacing an entire window treatment. The trade-off is that the retrofit products aren't as invisible as a dedicated installation. You can often see and hear the hardware. You have to make sure your existing curtain rods and tracks are compatible, and you may be dealing with changing batteries more often. Most of these options also require their own hub. Aqara, SwitchBot, Rise. I use a lot of Aqara products, so that's my first choice to avoid extra one-off hubs. The same concept exists for some blinds, as well as roller shades and extendable retrofit motors. I think this is a really exciting category, especially for people who aren't ready for a full window replacement project. This is usually the most affordable way to get into smart shading because you're keeping the window treatments you already own. These motors from different brands typically check in at around $100 each. Installation. This is where retrofit products really shine. Most install in minutes, they require very few tools, and they're easy to remove and take with you later. Pro tip, if you're using a curtain rod motor on an extension rod, use some of this gliding tape to help the robot and curtain rings not get stuck at the seam. Power and charging. Most of these rely on built-in rechargeable batteries, and because the motors themselves tend to be smaller, you'll probably find yourself charging them more often than some dedicated systems. Some of them are compatible with solar. Your light control here is only as good as the blinds or curtains you already have. The motor doesn't change that. It simply automates what's already there. This is probably the biggest thing to pay attention to. Most of these retrofit options do rely on their own hubs in order to conserve battery life. So make sure that those hubs work with the smart home platform that you've already chosen. And this is where you'll see the biggest difference between products. Some are surprisingly smooth, while others have a distinct mechanical sound that grabs your attention even though the noise level is pretty low. One of our regular viewers describes theirs as sounding like drones taking off in the living room. So definitely check reviews if noise is important to you. But these are best for you if you're renting or are on a tighter budget or already have window treatments that you love. This could be the easiest way to add smart automations to your windows. So after looking at all of these categories, which should you actually buy? Well, it depends. If you're building a premium home or doing a major renovation, custom Lutron powered shades through a window treatment professional may be the right choice for you. If you want the best balance of price, features, and customization, direct-to-consumer shades like SmartWave or SmartWings are incredibly compelling. If you have large windows or want that luxury feel, motorized curtains are hard to beat. And if you already have curtains or shades that you like, a retrofit solution might be the smartest option for you. The biggest takeaway is this: don't start with the brand, start with the room, start with your goals, and align with one ecosystem. Matter is great for this. Because the best smart shade isn't necessarily the most expensive one, it's the one that solves the problem that you actually have. Now, I know someone's already thinking, what about this brand? There are a lot of smart shade companies out there and more coming, and there's no way I could ever cover every single one in one video. My goal today wasn't to review every product on the market. It was to help you understand the landscape so that you can make a more informed buying decision. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments, what type of smart window covering are you considering? Roller shades, curtains, something custom? I'd love to hear what you're planning. And if you want more practical smart home advice from products I've actually installed and tested, consider subscribing. God bless you. See you next time.